The clocks have finally gone forward and winter already feels like a distant memory. The desire to crack on with the fun outdoor jobs is stronger than ever. Yet, annoyingly, the chaos indoors still demands our attention. Nature calls, but so does that important to-do list. Jane is currently agonising over where to put her new potagers? Her new potagers, or plant beds. Raised beds, that's what I'd call them anyway. And we're going to have a herb garden and a veg garden, and there'll be cut flower gardens. So there's lots planned, but Jane would like to get them exactly in the right position. And the problem is, to have them in the perfect position, this lovely cherry tree is in the way, and that's causing a problem, but the cherries it produces are delicious. We're not about to chop that tree down. But until all of the raised beds are built, their position would be largely academic. So we got them built. This enabled us to squabble over what would look best.
Well, we had some discussions and I wanted the beds to line up with the door. The cherry tree was a bit in the way, but we've decided to make a slightly bigger area in the middle and have a table and chairs here. So I'm thinking you can do a bit of planting up, you can have tea, watering can. So this is like a nice little relaxation stroke working area. I've got a load of dahlias to plant out. I've got some roses. They're going to be this is going to be the floral side. That's going to be the herb and veg side. And although they look quite big initially in their boxes, they don't look very big when they become a planting area. So we'll probably add to them over time, and they can be stacked as well. So if we find the planting area is not deep enough, we can stack them deeper. But for now, we've positioned them. The next thing to do will be weed suppressing membrane, some gravel, and then we can start to fill them and plant.
I'm in the back kitchen, which is still just my workshop because, the new kitchen furniture hasn't arrived, which is a good thing because I'm not ready for it. Anyway, I'm still working on fully repairing the second step. The bottom step is the one that I've made look like a surfboard, actually. And the next one up from that is the one I'm still repairing because it got really rotten in the corner, so it was really eaten away. So I'm going to rebuild it with resin. And so that's what I've now created this lovely little mould out of the plastic glass stuff I found at the DIY shop. So that it makes quite a nice little mould. I can just pour the resin in and away we go. And previously I've been using old powder that came out of the rotten wood that was sort of eaten away by the woodworm. So it makes a great colorant and a filler just to add to the resin to give it a bit more body. I went to get it this morning and I discovered that for the last few days the kittens have been using it as a litter tray. It's disgusting. I can't use it. I've managed to rescue a tiny bit, but there really isn't much left. I saw one of them. They've been outside all morning. I let them in. She came in here, jumped in the litter tray. She's outside holding it in. What's wrong with these kittens? I have enough of the sawdust to give it a nice dark colour, but there's not a lot of body to it. It's very runny. So I think I will add some of the other sawdust to try and give it a little bit more body. Kind of pleased I hadn't cleaned my tools in a while. I've got a tiny bit left over, so I'm just going to see if I can fill some of these cracks in this step. I'm sure there are resin experts out there that can tell me why what I'm doing isn't best practice. But until I get better pointers and tips, I'll carry on as I am. The next day we got the news. The new kitchen units were on their way. That meant the back kitchen's rebellious stint as a workshop was officially over. Time to clean up, clear out and make way for the grown-up kitchen. No more clutter, just progress. There was still a lot of dust and rubble from when the old kitchen units were smashed up. This needed to go so I could see the state of the floor beneath. Once the floor was swept and vacuumed, I could see that what remained was far too uneven to lay tiles on, so I had to turn to the power tools. Using an SDS hammer chisel, I took the lumps and bumps off the top surface. Once done, I began removing the more damaged tiles that will need to be replaced. In my exuberance, I did manage to break a couple of good tiles. We don't have that many to spare, so I must be more careful. The very next day they arrived, a van full of handmade wooden kitchen units, one of which was about to give us an alarming surprise.
Hello, well this is another example where I love Rory's positive attitude, and I've bought something that's way bigger than I thought it was going to be. I didn't notice it was really high. I just chose it because it was a good, nice, big central island for our kitchen, but it's too big to fit through the door because it's really high. It's a breakfast bar. I just thought it was a table. So, but Rory's positivity and the very nice guy who dropped it off has noticed that the tabletop will come off fairly easily. I mean, that looks like it will come off. And Rory thinks we could then be able to get it through the door to the kitchen. Worst case scenario, it ends up in our main kitchen because it will definitely fit in there. So that's not the end of the world. But I really had no idea it was quite this big. I mean, it will be a really lovely breakfast bar if we can get it in the kitchen. The other things have all arrived safely, and we decided to go for solid wood. They look to be really nicely made, but we've saved money in that we've got to do all the finishing ourselves. So we've got to prime and paint, and we've got to buy the worktop as well and put that on. So there's a fair amount of assembly to be done, but it should be good quality units. There's no chipboard for us here.
It was a beautiful day, and so I thought I'll come outside and do a bit of tractor cleaning. And then the sun went in and the clouds are looking very, very dark. So we'll see, the tractor might get cleaned because it's raining. Anyway, what I've done, I bought myself a tractor obviously, and I've been on an online forum, a Facebook group, and I was asking what products people use to clean their engines, because you know all the proper Massey Ferguson enthusiasts have lovely clean engines, all painted up lovely and lovely paintwork. I have none of that. I've got a very mucky engine and some very tired old paintwork. So I've got some brake disc cleaner, so I'm going to try that on one side of the engine, and I've also got some it's an engine cleaner, and what I'm going to clean it off with, one of the other options, one of the other suggestions was steam cleaning, and the only steam machine I've got aside from a kettle is wallpaper remover. So I've got that without the nozzle on, that's just heating up at the minute. This is by Sonax and it's made in Germany. And over this side we have more electrics than I want to ruin. So I'll be a little bit more careful with my spraying. So that's it, one side has got the engine degreaser cleaner on and the other side has got the brake disc cleaner on. And I'll leave them now for a few more minutes, and then, well, I'll leave them until the water is boiling in the wallpaper stripper, however long that might be, hopefully the next few minutes. And we'll see. I've never tried this before. I've never owned a tractor before until this week, so it's all exploratory and it's all new to me. So we'll see how we get on. The resin repair of one section of the second step was now dry. That wasn't an easy sentence to say. However, I still had another mould to make to repair the main section of the step. I've made several of these moulds now and was becoming an experienced hand. I've got a bit of a leak coming out the bottom of my mould. I'm trying to stop it with the hot glue gun, but it's just becoming a horrible mess. Oh dear.
Once I felt sure I'd stopped the leak, I needed to top up what had drained away back into the mould. But the resin fought back. It was running along the join of the two pieces of wood until it found an exit, and I was getting sticky. I worked in a very calm and collect manner, stopping the drips as best I could. Not at one point did I break out into hysterical swearing and cursing. No, not once. Several times, actually. Ultimately, I won the war of attrition and the resin dried. My workload was, though, certainly and unnecessarily extended. And as for the leak, well, it looked like someone had dropped a tray of samples at the sperm bank, but the less said about that, the better. I'd realised that the pipes running along the floor were in fact dead, so I removed them. This meant I had a small trench to fill in before I could even think about tiling. It also meant I'd have to wait a day or so before tiling, because things needed to dry. One of the many problems we've faced during our time at the Chateau is finding the right materials to match the things we're trying to repair. Jane painstakingly scoured the internet for tiles to match the existing ones in the back kitchen, and the closest ones she could find were about 5mm too wide, so I have over 100 tiles to trim down to size.
Welcome to Jane's Find of the Day with Jane.
Hello and welcome to this week's Find of the Day at Chateau de Pican. Today I'm talking about this gorgeous lidded pot, or camchang, if that's correct. Would have been used to store food, maybe ginger. And what I've learned, I think, is that it's described as being a Straits China artifact, so made by Straits Chinese, who were southern Chinese people who settled in Malacca, Penang and Singapore. So they were ethnically Chinese, but a particular ethnic group within southern China, who then took up residence in southern Asia, and they maintained their identity, but I guess it's blended with the country where they moved to. I've got a lot of dog interference. So interesting origin, and possibly 19th century, possibly 20th century. Somebody said early 20th century. This particular one is readily available, so I've seen many different offers for sale of this exact piece, so who knows exactly what the story is. This little fellow on top is very cute, and he's been described as a lion dog knop, if that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, so I guess he's like the little knob on top. I don't want to put too much force on him, but anyway, his little decorative top to the lid, and these gorgeous colours. This is obviously what really attracts me to it, are going to be perfect for blending some colour schemes that I've got going in the dressing room of our gite, our guest suite and our gite.
It was time to wax my surfboard. I mean, oil my bottom step. Do you know what? They both sound like euphemisms. I'd been tempted to varnish the oak without any colour stain, but ultimately I felt it would have been a little incongruous with the rest of the staircase. I'm not going as dark as the rest of the stairs, but it's a nudge in that direction. Whilst the stain dried, I went back to work on the step I was repairing. The resin was dry and ready to be sanded. Well, mostly, but I'll come back to that in a minute.
I've been working on this, and I think it's lovely. This is just the bottom of the second step, so it's the brace that I've made to support the second step of the back stairs, and basically that'll be hidden, never be seen, and the step will sit on top of it to give it a lot more support, and then that will be it finished. I mean, I'm not out of the woods yet. There's still a lot of problems and little bits to work out. And not least of all, I've got to try and get under there through a tiny hole that I've cut through a wall to get under there to actually screw these all into place. It's going to be a nightmare, but the fact that this is done is a real step forward. The steps are nearly ready to go back in. I might have a little bit more resin to do. I'm going to have a look in a sec in case I can do it with wood instead of resin. Anyway, for now, it's a great step forward.
This, however, was a step backwards, pun intended.
I've never seen this before. It's bulged up into a ginormous carbuncle, which obviously means there's a massive air bubble in there. I'm still new to working with resin, so I've absolutely no idea what this phenomena is. Theoretically, if it's not in the way of anything, I don't need to touch it at all. But here, on this side, it's bulged as well, and it's got this sort of bubbly light pattern, so I've no idea what's caused this at all. Maybe it was trying to explode and it contained itself at the last second. I just don't know what it is.
And what do we do to weird things we don't understand? Why, we cut them open, of course.
So it's not just a big bubble, it's many, many, many bubbles. There's been some sort of reaction. It's created gas and it's bubble trying to escape.
We all suffer bouts of gas from time to time.
Just before Christmas, we bought Dizzy, an oversized Connemara pony, very similar to our Harry. Dizzy was bred by our friend Karina in the village. He was originally sold to a French couple who no longer ride, and so he ended up back in Karina's care. Dizzy came to stay for the night to meet our horses, but our fields were rather waterlogged, so we decided to wait until the spring to bring him here full time. Well, spring has sprung, and here he is. Dizzy is everything you could want in a horse. Handsome, healthy, good-natured, and very affectionate. It will take a little time to fully integrate him with the others, but for the time being they can meet each other across a fence in the barn whenever they want.
Jane has spent literally days restoring this wooden floor. She's used 4 or 5 large tubs of solvent trying to remove the old carpet glue. She's used a sander, an industrial sander. She's wiped, she's vacuumed and repeated. It's been one of the most unpleasant jobs at the Chateau that we've had to deal with at all, and that includes unblocking a sewer. But the end is within sight. Whilst Jane got on with the much more interesting job of wallpapering the secret bathroom, I was finally able to start varnishing the wooden floor. Only about 1/3 of the floor was ready to be finished this week, as the rest is still in use while we finish work in the secret bathroom. With the bath moved out of the way, there was no stopping Jane. It was her first time wallpapering anything, and she'd picked just about the hardest room she could find to practice on. As the sun went down on the last night of wintertime, she was determined to finish the room. She was working away with a skilled hand she hadn't realised she possessed, until we hit a slight snag. I'd forgotten to sand down the wall after filling a few old screw holes. Oops. A quick rub down later and Jane the wallpapering machine was back on the rungs. With an interfering hand, I lent an assist towards the end.
The bathroom will be revealed soon. We hope to show you more next week.
The moment that perhaps none of you have been waiting for.
This is, as I said, readily available. So this particular one, you can see it on for sale in all different places. I saw it sold at auction in Australia, which is where I got a little bit more information about it, 10 years ago, and it was sold for 220 Australian dollars. Today, I've seen it for sale for $350 US, also 180 pounds, various different prices in between. So I don't know exactly what I would sell it for if I were to sell it, but I don't intend to sell it because we've got a pair of them and they're going to look absolutely perfect in the dressing room of our guest suite. So they're staying, and really, really lucky to have such a gorgeous thing.
Well, the steam's coming out, and it's coming out in spurts of water, so I don't have much hope this is going to do a very good job, but I'll try anyway. And just to help me out, it started to rain a little bit. Yes, this is crap. Well, this isn't working, so don't try this at home because it's utterly pointless. I think I'm going to have to get the jet washer on it. I'm just going to try it without the power on because there's still a bit of a jet. I'll just see if that's good enough first, because I don't want to unnecessarily pummel a 62-year-old engine. Well, I'm obviously getting some of it off, but it's not brilliant. I don't really feel like I'm getting anything off on this side.
I'd run out of options. It was time to add some power.
I don't really feel like there's an awful lot of muck come off this. This side too, there's no significant difference. All I've done is made the engine wet, I think. So did it work? Well, not really. Maybe I'll try again. Well, I'll do something because I'd like to have a nice clean looking tractor. But that doesn't seem to have done an awful lot, this, to be perfectly honest, this time. I don't know, I'm open to suggestions, but for now I'm just going to make sure that the thing starts, because I don't want to put water where water doesn't want to be. So I'll try the engine.
On another note, thank you for all of the name suggestions for the tractor. I have a few favourites and will decide soon. Also, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and perhaps mention us to your friends and force us on your enemies. See you next time.